Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mate TV. So, Liverpool in the midst of an injury crisis. Liverpool in the midst of one of the worst starts they've had to a season. They're on the back of an opening Champions League defeat 4-1 to Napoli, one of the most embarrassing performances we can remember in recent time. The biggest ever Champions League defeat, biggest European defeat since the 60s. And to rub salt into the wounds, Naby Keita, who Jurgen Klopp last week in his pre-match press conference confirmed was out injured, has been called up to the Guinea squad for the forthcoming international games, begging the question, why? Now, this is not unheard of, and this is not in itself unusual, but anyone who's been following the Naby Keita sort of story that's been developing over the last month will understand why the sort of confusion that's followed, the befuddlement, if you will. Now, just to kind of catch people up on this, the timeline of this goes as follows. Liverpool come back from the break in the summer. They go through pre-season. Naby Keita is around. He's involved. As the season approaches and starts, we find there's a report that comes out from a reporter, and I'm going to confirm his name. I've got it written down here. It's Atletico. It's Florian Plettenberg. Yes, nailed it. He basically tweeted this. He said, Naby Keita is unhappy with his current situation in Liverpool. There were talks about a contract extension, but they have stopped now. His departure is possible regardless of Thiago and Oxlade-Chamberlain, but early stage talks will take place. Now, Liverpool, of course, famously have a stance that if you come to them early enough and you express your wishes to move on and, and leave Anfield, then, they'll try their best to make it work for you and, of course, make it work for themselves financially, provided they get the right offer. However, Liverpool also famously will not deal with footballers if they come to them late in the transfer window and say they want them out. They'll say to them, you've had your chance, we're not going to get a decent replacement, and we've got a weaker bargaining position as a result of it, so basically sling your hook. As we saw most obviously with Philippe Coutinho, comes to Liverpool right before the start of a campaign of 17-18, says Barcelona want me, I want to go, and Liverpool went and so there was this whole back injury thing. Eventually the transfer window shuts, the international breaks are all over, and Coutinho comes back in and actually has a really good first half of the season for Liverpool before eventually moving to Barca in January. What happens, of course, is Liverpool again having some real issues with availability of midfielders. Naby Keita missing games at the start of the season through a reported illness. Now, no one really knew what that was, but it was made very clear to fans that this wasn't an injury, it was an illness, and it was even stated he shouldn't be too far away once the season had begun. It looks like he's ready to go back into the team. Liverpool are quite quick to kind of play down this idea that he wants to go. The talk from inside the club was that contract negotiations were still underway. Of course, just to add to this, of course, which I haven't mentioned, his contract expires at the end of the season, which adds into all of this mix. But Liverpool seem reasonably confident they're going to be able to get a new deal over the line for him sooner rather than later. He is in the club's plans, and they certainly won't be considering any transfers for him. He looks to be back to fitness. And as we approach the game at Old Trafford, there's a real expectation that he's going to start in that game and he's going to play a role. And Liverpool are going to need him, of course, because without Thiago Alcantara being available, Liverpool haven't got any real, established first-team quality in the prime age who can play on the left of the midfield three. Curtis Jones out injured as well, of course, at this time, and, back injured again. When the squad arrives at Old Trafford, Naby Keita is not in it. And although the question isn't asked before the game, we find out afterwards that he picked up an injury late the day before, which meant that he couldn't be included in the matchday squad. And not much more is said around it, but there still persists the rumblings of discontent. Is Naby Keita happy to be at Liverpool? And a lot of this talks about, about his place within the Liverpool squad. And now what we've seen is, again, Jurgen Klopp said he's out. Now you've got Guinea coming out and saying he's available. Now, Liverpool have yet to comment on the time of this video, but what we have got is a reaction from the Guinea manager, who was basically quoted as saying, the Guinea boss, Kaba Diawara, that will be the ambulance carrying him right now, Cavadiawara believes Keita could be back in a fortnight. His situation is improving and he's even ahead of schedule, he said. We took a group of 24 players, thank you very much, of 24 players precisely to give him a chance to be able to count on him because he's a very important player for us. On and off the pitch, he is our captain. We are monitoring his situation very closely. We still have a little over 2 weeks before our first game. Chances are we could get him back by then. So look, in a general sense, you think, okay, wow, Naby Keita could be back in 2 weeks. That is fantastic news. Liverpool brought Arthur Melo in. We know Jordan Henderson's got a couple of weeks at least out. No one kind of knows with the recurrence of Curtis Jones where he's going to be. But that could bode really well for Liverpool, right? Naby Keita back within a couple of weeks. And in addition to that, I actually found almost this time last year, it's the 7th of November, last season, Naby Keita is injured in the build-up to the West Ham game away. And Klopp talked about being hopeful of having him back before after the international break, and Guinea again called him up to the squad in that time. So it's actually not unheard of for Guinea to call an injured Naby Keita up to the squad. So that bit about having him round and all that kind of thing seems absolutely fine. Where it's mad is this week just gone, Liverpool named their Champions League squad for the first section of the campaign. That is the group stage. Now, the group stage ends in the first week of November because everything's truncated, of course, because of the World Cup. Now, the prevailing logic on this is no Oxlade-Chamberlain, no Keita in Liverpool's Champions League squad. So you go, okay, well, I can understand that. And David Maddock, a good friend and Mirror journalist, kind of tried to draw a line under it and said, well, look, the group stage doesn't take place over a long-ranging period of time. It's a month less than it would normally be. So being injured for a few weeks actually could keep it out of useful participation in the competition. And okay, I think off face value, you go, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. Oxlade-Chamberlain, we know, is probably not even going to be back in training till at least toward the end of October, which of course gets him close to November. There's a chance, that very outside chance, he might be available for like one game, maybe. But we can make our peace and say, well, look, if Liverpool get through the group stages and Ox stays through the January transfer window, then they can revisit that in the round of 16. And I guess the logic then followed that the same therefore must be for Naby Keita. His injury must be closer to months than weeks. But if what's being said by the Guinea manager is true, and he's back in 2 weeks' time, and Liverpool are, in a situation where they do need bodies able to play and good bodies, moreover, something feels off about the whole situation. And look, in many instances, it's a bit of like you hear the smoke and you presume there might be a little bit of fire there. And sometimes conspiracy theories can take root in the absence of facts or the absence of understanding of a situation better. So this might be a whole lot of nothing and a much ado about nothing kind of situation. If the Guinea manager had said nothing, that would be fine. If Naby's people had basically briefed the Guinea, FA to say, can you just treat this one a little bit more carefully? But when there's talk of him not being happy, there's talk of him not extending his contract, Liverpool have been quite quiet on this. And as much as Klopp said, no, he's got a muscle injury, they've not. In the absence of Liverpool filling these gaps with facts of their own to kind of ease the blow, this sits a little uneasy with me. And of course, moreover, because it exists in possibility, if Naby Keita was to take to the field for Guinea in that international break, what does that do? And how does that affect his standing amongst the Liverpool squad, the Liverpool hierarchy, and the Liverpool fan base as well? Because let's be honest, we're all feeling at breaking point with stuff at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd rather us be cross with the actions of a one player than feel like the entire world and we want to take pot shots at every squad member and the manager and the management team and ownership and blah, 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 blah. That's exhausting. It's nice to have a little bit of a pantomime villain to focus the attentions a touch. But it's sad for me because Naby's a terrific player, an absolutely terrific footballer. And what's made it difficult is he's just come off the back of his best season for Liverpool. And maybe not in terms of he didn't quite have the standout individual performances, but in terms of the thing that we've most cried out for, availability. Most games played for Liverpool in the 5 years that he's been at the club were played last season. He matched his highest goal return. It's only 4, but it was still his highest goal return. 3 assists, all comps. That was a good shot. That's what you're looking for, bare minimum. We got Naby Keita up to a useful status last year, and I know his contract's going into the final year, and it's a very tricky one to gauge. What do you do with Naby Keita in that situation? Because look, while most Liverpool players have followed a contract progression where every few years you're getting renewed, and you're getting renewed on more money. Why? Because Liverpool are being successful and your career's progressing along that path as well. It's a difficult ask, I think, for Naby's people to turn around to Liverpool and say, well, cool, we'll extend for another 3 years or whatever, but we want another 20, 30, 40, whatever, just picking numbers out of the air, grand a week for the privilege. It's like, well, lads, he's done... He did okay last season. He was very useful for Liverpool, and I think he helps Thiago Alcantara because he's the closest facsimile we've got to him. He allows Liverpool to take better care of Thiago, so he carries with him more than his own ability that he's bringing on the pitch. He actually helps us get better out of another footballer as well. But would you want to be giving Naby more money? Has he truly earned more money? Shrug. Question mark. I'm honestly not sure. So Liverpool are in a weird situation with him where, and he should be the easiest one to settle because what you'd think is, do you want the same terms? Extension, same terms. Maybe it's a bit more complicated than that because Liverpool have got an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain situation where his contract's going to expire. James Milner's 37, it's probably almost certainly his last season at the top level. We're starting to see the limitations of him in regular full game playing mode, certainly. Liverpool have got some issues to address in terms of, you know, who and how many footballers they're going to need for midfield in the summer, and Naby could have been a bit of an easy win, but it's ended up looking like it's a little bit of a shit show. So I don't envy Liverpool and having to sort that out. And I also don't really envy Naby Keita because there's clearly a fabulous footballer in there. He's got great control, great touch, wonderful carrier of the ball, very progressive in how he plays. We've seen him score some absolute belters for us. He can play both sides of the midfield. Can't even see him pushed further forward at times as well. He can play in a 4-3-3, he can play in a 4-2-3-1. He's a good player. He's a really, really good player. And when he's on his day, he's brilliant. And even he reached the level where he didn't have to be perfect to actually just look like a really solid player for Liverpool in midfield. I really thought we'd gotten over the Naby hump. We were never going to see him as the star of Liverpool's midfield. And at 27 years old, he should be the star of Liverpool's midfield by now. Maybe there's a little thing where he's looked at Gini Wijnaldum's career and gone, well, you know, do I really want to be a utility man in a Liverpool team? Does he still think he can go somewhere else and be the main man? Admirable in some regard, although there are a litany of former Liverpool players who made that decision and have lived to regret it, of course. But it's a peculiar situation. I don't really know what best to handle it. I really hope, just because of the associated shitstorm, this is going to sound mad to say these words out loud. I hope he's injured. I hope he actually is genuinely injured, because if he's not and Liverpool are having to cover up for it, and then the cat's been let out the bag, it makes Liverpool look stupid, it makes Klopp look stupid, and it burns Naby Keita's bridges with the Liverpool fan base in a huge way. I hope he is back in the next couple of weeks, though, ultimately, and because Liverpool need quality footballers. There's a lot of games in a very short space of time. Thiago needs to be looked after. Arthur Melo's only new. Curtis Jones has got injury problems. Harvey Elliott's a young kid, and Jordan Henderson's having fitness issues of his own. Another senior quality, prime age, brilliant ball carrying, combative central midfielder who knows how we play will be a very, very useful thing for Liverpool to have between now and the World Cup. So yeah, weird one. It does look like it's going to be Liverpool's last season of Keita. But has he played his last game for the Reds? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section underneath on all that. Yeah, bizarre. More Liverpool content over on Redmen TV YouTube channel, more on redmenplus.com, and the guys over at 888 Sport are debating the best ever Champions League final win. All you really need to do is head over to the 888 Sport channel, link below, and just say it's Istanbul, and tell them mate sent me. Say it's Istanbul. it's mad that they're even having the debate, right? But look, I'll play it out on a clip from that. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the videos. I've been loving chatting to you guys more and more on these videos in recent weeks, really enjoying it again, despite the fact that Liverpool have been a bit poo. But that is a temporary thing. Form will return, and the class will remain forever, of course. But yeah, thank you so much. You guys are boss. Again, go and support me by leaving the Istanbul comments and the 888 comments. That'd be awesome. Thank you guys. Up the Reds. Stay up on top. You guys, your boss. Rambling, sound, bye, ta-ra.
Look, this is coming from a guy you can't despise. I despise Man United with every fibre of my body. I do, but they won a treble.
I know.
And it's the last minute. Like,
it's incredible.
Mate, they were losing.
They were losing to Bayern
in the
Munich.
91st minute.
Yeah, I agree that.
They were losing and they won. They didn't go to
Liverpool,
penalty.